Jane, it's great to see you again. For those of you who don't know, Jane and I did a podcast, link in the description, all about burnout. Jane, I will do you a disservice. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me come on, Charlotte. It's really great to talk to you. And obviously, as you know, I could sit and talk to you forever. Yeah, I run a membership for other counsellors. So I used to be a counsellor. I was a counsellor for 14 years. And now what I do is I help other counsellors with their marketing. I've been doing that for a while. I've written a book, I've got a membership and a podcast and all sorts of things. So yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. And we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of your experience and specifically about burnout, because this video is coming out on National Stress Awareness Day. And I think burnout is something we talked a lot about in 2020, but in 2021, it's not been talked about maybe so much. But then I personally am now seeing a resurgence of people experiencing burnout. So stress can very much lead to burnout. I feel like this is still an important and relevant topic. Now, we both connected because we've experienced burnout. And I was wondering if you could share with the viewers a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before I do, I agree with you. I'm seeing more and more people now that seem to be really struggling. They don't necessarily call it burnout. They'll talk about being really tired, being exhausted. And what I'm recognizing now after my experience is, oh crikey, I think they're either in burnout or heading towards it. So for anybody listening to this, if you are constantly tired, feeling exhausted, where you've lost your mojo and everything feels very flat, it's worth really stopping and taking a look at your life. So for me, I mean, I've had my business for about 4 years working with counsellors, and I started my membership about 3 years ago, probably a little bit more now. And I've loved it. I've really, really loved it. And so when you love what you do, there's a tendency to really throw yourself into it, isn't there? Because you love it, why wouldn't you? So every waking day I was thinking about it, I was working on it, I was doing more and more and more, lots and lots of different things. And it was a really positive challenge for me. And challenge is really great for me. I love seeing things go from there to there. And, I absolutely loved it. But then when lockdown started, I think I threw myself even more into it, because for me, I could throw myself into my business, and it was a great way of turning off the rest of the world, all the stuff out there. Because it was, I mean, depending on your viewpoint, it was either scary or terrifying. And for me, because I've got asthma and for various reasons, I really thought if I caught it, I'd die. And that's really, really scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've all got our own stories. We've all been worried about ourselves, about our kids, about our families. Some people, I mean, crikey, some people have had to homeschool. My kids are too old for that now, thank God. But my goodness, how stressful must that be for people? So we've all had our stories. And my story was that, I just really threw myself into work. I threw myself into helping people in the membership, and just doing more and more and more. And then earlier this year, it kind of came to a bit of a head. So in about May, I was going to do an anniversary party for members. And I cancelled it, which isn't really like me. And I just felt I couldn't do it. It just felt too much. And then I did this big promotion thing. And it was then I just felt like I felt kind of frozen. Yeah. So after that, what I've done is I've kind of, I've really had to recognize what's been going on, and I've been taking steps to kind of help myself. And I am feeling a lot better, thankfully. But even now, several months later, I'm still having to be really careful. I'm still having to check in on myself. I'm still having to be really, really red hot on boundaries, because it's a horrible thing, isn't it? And like I say, it's not just about being exhausted. And also the next step on really from burnout is depression. And we don't want to go down that route, do we? Because that is, that's not a good place to be. So my burnout story is it's kind of crept up from a point of really loving what I do to it kind of becoming like this massive focus and me taking on more and more and more and more and more. And I think so many people can identify with that, especially coming through lockdown, because like I say, if you've got kids and you're having to homeschool them and you're also having to run the house and having to do your job, how can you do that? How can you? And it takes its toll. Yeah. So I suspect there are a lot of people that have been stressed, that are exhausted, and that may be at burnout or even going on to depression. So it's a big subject. It's an important subject. And it's a subject that sounds flippant when we say, oh, I'm burnt out, because people say I'm burnt out when they actually are just a bit tired. But burnout is like that being frozen, isn't it? And yeah.
Yeah, I really like that analogy of being frozen. I think that's exactly how it felt. I mean, I identify with your story so much. I mean, I have made a video in the past detailing exactly all of the steps it took to get to burnout and be in it and like what it really experienced. So I'll put a link to that in the description. But I identify with your story exactly. You know, same thing for me. Work has always been a form of escapism for me. And then lockdown came and it provided even more of an example to do that. And, you know, I'm a consultant and actually the consultancy work went up during lockdown. So it was all the work was there for the taking. And so it became an escapism to maybe a bit of an addiction. And then it became actually overwhelming. And then you kind of go,
yeah,
I don't know what to do next.
I don't even know where to start.
You just think, all the things.
And the brain kind of stops, doesn't it? My brain, I'm usually someone who has, you know, loads of ideas. You know, somebody can say to me, oh, what do you think about this? And my mind will go, this and this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, that's like my superpower, really. I can have loads of ideas, but people were asking me things and it was like, and I was almost thinking, oh my God, have I got like, is this Alzheimer's starting? Because my brain was just like, it just wouldn't find words. I couldn't make connections. It was complete brain fog.
Yeah, I completely identify with that. And I think for me, even after, I'm not sure the brain fog's fully quite lifted. I think, you know, it's probably of all the symptoms of burnout, it's the one for me that's taken the longest to go away. You know, I find myself, I was in a shopping centre and someone with lots of food options and someone said, what do you want for dinner? Very simple question. I don't know. What is dinner? What is a dinner? I don't know. I just want to go home. I don't like it anymore.
Do it for me.
Just pass me food, anything. I don't know.
Jam sandwich, anything.
Yes. So yeah, I completely identify with that. But I think, as you say, it's not a topic that's going away. It's coming back, especially as we go through the changes around this particular phase of burnout, the phase of lockdown and COVID and how the future is starting to change. I think it's maybe dipped a little bit over the summer, but especially now with the long nights drawing in and people feeling stressed, and of course with Christmas coming, which brings its own stress as well. It's easy to see.
And outside of that as well, we know there's all sorts of other things that are scary. We've got environment, the cost of living going up. There's always politics. There's always something. There is going to always be things that stress us. But I think it feels at the moment like there is such a lot. There's such a lot that it's putting us under such a lot of stress that it's a bit of a perfect storm regarding burnout, I think.
It is. And I think, you know, looking back, I was in a fortunate position of being employed by a big organization. So it was easy, setting aside that the path to making the decision to take time out was absolutely not easy, but the actual process of taking time out and obviously you get sick pay whilst you're out, when you need to kind of take a complete reset from burnout when you're in an employed position. It's the different kettle of fish to self-employed, and I can't imagine how challenging that must be for you. Would you be happy to share some of your experience of navigating burnout specifically as a self-employed person?
Yeah, I mean, it is completely different. Now, I have, unfortunately, in the past had depression. And so when I was working previously, when I experienced depression, I had time off. I was given time off. I was given, you know, weeks off, quite a long time off. You can't do that when you're self-employed. I mean, you just can't do it. Like I say, I used to be a counsellor, and from time to time I'd see people that were self-employed absolutely on their knees, but just without the option of just going, oh, I can't do this, because that would be, you just can't when it's just impossible, really. The impact of that would be too great. You basically have given your business up, really. So there isn't the option usually to just say, right, I'm just not playing for it for now. What I did, because obviously I've got a membership, in my membership I do weekly training, I've got to keep on top of, I do podcast, all the rest of it. So what I did, I just kind of went back to basics. I went back to just doing things that I really, really had to. So I thought, right, what do I have to do? Well, I have to look after my members. I really want to keep on top of my podcast, because that is something that brings me that regularity. And I just really looked at, right, do I have to do this? So I used to do a lot of, things like this and talking, that was all above and beyond what my job is. And so I cut back on that. I actually cancelled some stuff, which actually made me feel awful, because I'm not a big one for cancelling things, but I actually cancelled some things. And I really just went back to basics. What do I actually properly need to do? And that's just what I focused on. And it's a lot about mindset. And I found that what I did, and I think it's people cope in different ways. For me, I kind of became a little bit of a zombie for quite a while, and I sat and I would just like binge watch stuff on the telly. I'd binge watch a whole Netflix series in a day or two, and in the back of my mind I was going, oh, that's just being lazy. You're just being lazy now, Jane. What a waste of your time, what a waste of your life. But I really needed to do that, because it was a way, I suppose it's almost a form of mindfulness, where it takes me away from my problems and I can just turn that side of my mind off, and I can just kind of go into that. I don't think that's healthy long term, but when I was really in it, that was something that I found really useful. And then gradually I've started getting back to doing things. So I've got a dog. Taking my dog out to different places is obviously really, really great. But yeah, really, really just really pulling back as much as possible. And again, like I say, it's mindset. It's about not being hard on myself about it, not telling myself that I'm lazy. And I do still sometimes say, God, you should be doing more. You should, why can't you do that? You used to be able to do that. Sometimes I give myself a bit of a hard time about it, but I'm sort of, another part of me now is going, no, come on, you do plenty. You have done plenty. This isn't forever. And, in the future, you can do those things. But right now you need to prioritize yourself. But being self-employed is a whole other ball game, because you just can't not. So you have to find some ways around it. It's the good old work-life balance, isn't it? We all know how important it is. So I think that if you are struggling and you're feeling burnt out or exhausted or whatever, I think it's a chance for you to stop and say, right, let's have a look at my lifestyle. Because we can, like I say, when we love the job that we do, it can take over. And, we sometimes need to look at that and think, right, where are my boundaries? What are my time boundaries? How can I get more balance in there? How can I, make sure that my social life is still going, so that it's not just work? It's not easy, but it's such an important thing to do. So the positives out of it is that, I am getting better boundaries. I am more able to do that. So there are positives that come out of this bad situation.
Yeah, it's true what you're saying around boundaries. And I think, like you say, work-life balance means different things to different people, and different things to the same person at different times in their lives. And I think what burnout has taught me is the same lesson as it's shown you, which is it's about setting the boundary so that when you feel able to do lots of stuff, you are giving yourself the facility to be able to go. If you can go hard, you're ready to go hard. You've got that infrastructure in place to enable the productivity. But when you're not, you are recognizing what the point to dial back is, what the level to dial back is, and to stop the gremlins in your brain going, yes, but last week we could do this. Yes, 2 years ago we could do this. I can not do this now. I mean, those are not helpful gremlins, and
No.
actually silencing them and say, and I think what you just said around, well, it's okay, maybe next time, not forever. That's just so important.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear, that you're recovering and coming through the other side. For those people who are just about to come through the other side, or are also sort of feeling this way as well, have you got any kind of tips or advice for them on how to kind of accelerate the recovery, and some of the tips of things you've learned through your recovery? Happy to share that.
Yeah, I mean, we are all different, obviously, but there are some things that you could do, and some things that you can do if you feel that you're starting to go towards burnout. Do them now. Don't wait until you get there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the good, like I say, it's the good old work-life balance, and especially if you're self-employed, they do mix such a lot. It's so easy to work longer hours. So I think sometimes I think time boundaries are so important, and I do a lot of time blocking. A podcast on that if anybody's interested, but I do a lot of time blocking. So time block your diary so that you know what you're going to do every day. You're not spending just like forever doing a thing, because it's easy to go down into little rabbit holes, can't you? So clear start times, clear end times. And so for me, I always end now, I probably end between about 5:30, and I go and have a coffee in the living room, sat on the sofa, and I watch The Chase. And I do that, and then I take the dog out. So there's kind of an end routine, and having a routine really for the end of your day is something that can be so useful. So I never really used to use out of office emails. I don't know why, but I didn't. And that meant if I got an email, I felt obliged to answer it. So something as simple as just when you finish work, putting an out of office email on takes that pressure of feeling as though you're obliged to respond like right now. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said he got a DM on Facebook. He's self-employed. He got a DM on Facebook about something, and he answered it straight away, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. And that's what we do when we're self-employed, because we think, oh, there's a chance that they're going to be a customer, I'd better give good customer service. But is it reasonable to be answering work calls at such a late time? So it's worth exploring that, and exploring, how you can get those boundaries there. It's quite an important thing, isn't it? So, and again, a finish of the day routine, I think, can be really good for that transfer from I'm at work and I'm at home. So especially people working at home, it's so easy, isn't it? And we've talked before about it's easy to go and take your computer and sit on the sofa in front of the telly and just do things that are easy. So for me, it's playing about on Canva and making social media images. I love doing that, but it's still actually work, and it's taking work into your social space. So I've kind of stopped doing that for the most part now, because that does blur the line. But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's as simple as, none of these are groundbreaking, as simple as, can you tidy your desk up? Can you write a to-do list for tomorrow, so that when you get to work the next day, you're not thinking, right, what am I going to do? While you're still thinking of it and you're still in that work frame of mind, write your to-do list for the next day so that you start up and running. And that also means that you're not having to hold on to that information for the rest of the night. You're not having to think, oh God, I can't forget, I've got to do that thing. You're writing it down, it's safe, and then you can just sort of do that. And if possible, I mean, I don't have a separate office space. This is the dining area of my dining room kitchen. So I don't have a separate space. If you do have a separate space, it's a really good idea to be able to close the door on it. But a part of you, if you haven't, again, tidying up your desk, closing everything down just means that, right, that part of my life, that part of me is now, it's over. Now it's about me and what I want to do. And like I say, I have that little transition of I'll sit and watch The Chase for half an hour. I never see the first half, but you don't need to, do you? I'll sit and watch The Chase for half an hour. I'll take the dog out for a walk. I'll get my tea. And that's kind of my change in routine. So, but for some people, that could be something like changing your clothes, putting different clothes on, putting like more loungy clothes, although we tend to wear loungy clothes anyway these days, don't we? But it might be a case of have a shower after you finish work, doing something that's different. The only thing I'd say is be a little bit careful, because these days it's really easy to open a bottle of wine and have a glass of wine, and that signifies like, right, I'm off duty. That's an easy habit to get into. So word to the wise, just be a little bit careful of that, because it's a really, really easy habit to get into. So find other things that are going to sort of signify that break. Some people do exercise, to maybe go for a run, go to the gym, all sorts of things, but have something that really sort of makes that break. And the other thing is, when I talk about going back to basics, you could consider doing something like getting a VA. So a VA is like, it's a virtual assistant, if people aren't really aware. So it's like having a personal assistant, but obviously it's virtual. And there are VAs that will do all sorts of things. They might manage your emails, they might manage your social media. There's a VA out there that's capable of doing every single different thing. Now, one of the things that I know that I'm rubbish at is my business. It's like my baby, and nobody can deal with it quite the way I can. Nobody can make a social media post like me, because it's my baby. And anybody that's had a baby, you'll know that nobody can feed that baby like you. Nobody can change that baby like you. And it's a little bit like that with a business for me sometimes. And so if you recognize that, it's about being able to say, right, so I'm in charge of this business, but I don't actually have to do absolutely everything within it. What can I let go of? What's taking a lot of time from me doing the money-making activities that I can get rid of, so that the time I'm spent working is really productive time. It's time that's going to help me to make money and move my business forward. And I'm not faffing with things that are just busy work that aren't going to make a lot of difference. So it's worth, and it depends on your business as to what that might look like. But things like, for example, if you've got a business like, say you're a builder or something, can you make it so that you go out and do all your quotes on one day, so that you're sort of putting it into like a time boundary thing, so that you're not having to go out and come back and do it all in one go. I don't know, does that help us with a few different ideas?
Actually, what you're saying, sorry,
I was going to say, it's just different for everybody and depending on your business, but there are always going to be ways that you can let things go and let somebody else do them, and that will help you in all sorts of ways.
I agree. I think what you said around busy work really, really resonates. I think we get very hung up on being busy, and whenever people ask, "Oh, how are you?" how many times do you hear "busy" as the response?
Busy.
But what does this really is that I used to do exactly the same, but now I don't look at that like that's not a badge of honor. To wear this as a badge of honor, and now sometimes people say, "Well, very busy." I'm like, "Can you able to manage your time properly?" And I start questioning their time management, because actually, people talk about how you spend your time. See, I think that's not a useful mindset, because you spend money on things that don't give you a return, right? I spend money on a cake and I enjoy it fleetingly in the moment, but actually it's not an investment, right? It's just a cake. The same is true of how you spend your time. If you look at it as an investment of your time, then brilliant. I think you've changed what it is you do with your time. And so I've been struggling recently with my relationship with my TV. We have not quite found the right balance. I look at it, I'm like, I'm spending time on you. But then sometimes I'm like, no, I am investing time in dialing back to reset through doing something else. And I think combined with this as well is also being able to kind of zone out distractions. So the thing I hate most during my working day is this thing.
Yes.
Taking this away, what I was finding is sometimes if I'm like struggling to get a thought straight in my head, I'll just pick up my phone out of something to distract me from that uncomfortable sensation of not quite being able to grasp the thing I'm trying to do. So you pick up your phone and you'll look at something. Before you know it, 5-10 minutes has gone by. Great. Yeah. Then you feel annoyed at yourself because you haven't achieved the thing you set out to achieve. So it now takes you longer. Now your whole working day is taking you longer. And you're like, why am I so busy? Well, not only because you are not investing your time, but when you are trying to invest your time, you're allowing distractions, or you're allowing an uncomfortable sensation, which is actually the key to creativity, to distract you into doing a soothing behavior that really isn't soothing you at all. So actually physically removing my phone, and sometimes going as far as putting it on plane mode when I'm trying to work, just has also helped, because then I'm actually more productive and I'm more efficient. So I don't need to take so long to complete a task. And I feel better about it because I've achieved more in less time.
Yeah.
And then I'm not just filling my day with busyness for 12, 14, 16 hours.
Absolutely. I mean, something else you can do is just turn off your notifications on your phone, on your laptop, everything, because every time there's a notification, I do this. It's so tempting.
Yeah.
You get a notification, it's like, oh, who's that? What is it?
Yeah.
And then that takes you away from that thing you were doing. I mean, a couple of really simple things that I do is I use the Pomodoro Technique a lot. Do you? So for anybody who
I've got mixed feelings on it, but yeah.
Oh, you're not sure? Well, for me, I love it. And if you don't know what the Pomodoro technique is, you basically put in a timer on for a set amount of time, and you focus just on doing that thing. And for me, I find that that's something that just helps me to really, really focus, because I know that it's time limited. That's something that's good. I also use Brain FM. I don't know if you've heard
I love it. Yes, I'm a recent convert. I love it. It's changed my life. I love it.
So Brain FM isn't much more than Pomodoro, really, but it has that the ambient sound that's like all scientifically whatever. And for me, it's the Pavlovian effect now. So I can put my earphones in. I've put my earphones in and really started working and realized I've not plugged it into my phone before. So it's now just putting my earphones in means that I'm doing the stuff. But Brain FM, I mean, that is paid, but you can get free versions, like where you've got the ambient sound of a coffee shop behind and all sorts of things. But they're worth trying as well, because they help to just take you, especially if you work from home, if you hear the ping of the wash has gone off, then there's that sort of, oh, shall I go and sort that washing out? Whereas if you use something like that, it makes you go, right, no, because I'm focusing on this. And it really makes a difference. I mean, these are just really little things, but the distractions are the things that take us away, and then we feel like we're constantly busy, and then we feel like we're not getting anything done, and then we try to do more and work longer hours, and then we get burnt out, don't we? So, you know, the more that we can get rid of the distractions, just go in, do the work, get it done, stop doing the work, right, that's it, done, then we've got a sense of achievement, we're getting things done, we have more time to then just turn off. So it's,
and I think when you're engaging with the thing you're doing, which is what you're doing when you're doing deep work, which is really what this takes you to, and that deep work is a feeling of flow. And when you're there, you actually enjoy what you're doing more. You know, I've been putting a task off. I've been making the prototype of the app off for a long time. And I did it this weekend, and I just put Brain FM on, sat down, and I was about halfway through making it, and I suddenly realised I'm enjoying myself. I was like, hang on, I'm having fun. That's quite enjoyable. And then you because you're not allowing your brain to be distracted by, oh, a notification. Oh, BBC News. Oh, Twitter. Oh, who wants me? Am I popular? Oh, God, tell me I'm popular.
Tell me you love me.
The Pomodoro technique I have mixed feelings on. So when I was first recovering from burnout, I used it to just kind of get me started, because I was really struggling to get started. But now what I'm finding is after 25 minutes or 20 minutes, I'm just getting into flow, and then it's distracting me. So depending on what the task is, I sometimes just set the Brain FM on. I think, well, you're right about the ritual. It's as much the ritual of, okay, the headphones are on, the phone is away, and you just get, and I think sometimes I just allow that deep work to happen until I feel tired, or until I want the distraction, not just because my brain is unhappy, but because actually you have completed the set thing, or you're at a natural break, and you need to take the break to reset your mind.
Yeah, it's finding your own way, isn't it? I mean, there are lots of different sort of things that we can try, but it's finding what works for you. But I think the the enemy of us when we're working is that feeling of it's the busy stuff, isn't it? Because it makes us feel that we're being busy, but we don't achieve anything. And that's just bad for mindset. We all do it. It's hard not to, isn't it? It's really, really hard not to, but it's worth persevering and trying to find, you know, the techniques that help you. I mean, another thing that I do, of course I couldn't do it recently, but I can do it now, is I'll take myself off to a coffee shop or a pub and have some cake and have, you know, maybe some lunch, and I'll take a notebook and I'll, you know, write. So I might outline some podcasts or write a workshop that I'm doing, and it just gets me out of this area and gets me somewhere else. And that just feels, I don't know, it helps me to just have that change of environment. It makes my brain start to then go bing, 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 with all ideas again, instead of just that same old of sitting at the same place doing the same thing. And that's kind of the enemy of creativity as well, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. Brilliant. Well, Jane, your insights have been super, super valuable. And I hope the viewers have taken something from it. If you've experienced burnout, then please drop a comment, share us your experience. Please be respectful of others when you are putting comments or responding to each other. But this is a topic that is as important as it was when we first started talking about it. National Stress Awareness Day feels like a great time to resurface the conversation as well. Jane, I'm so glad to hear that you're on the road to recovery and the path is going in the right direction. You mentioned your book before. Do you want to just show the viewers your book?
Yeah, so it's for counsellors. So if you're a counsellor or a therapist in private practice, it's about growing your private practice. That's what I'm all about. I help people. Because I used to be a counsellor, I sort of know the struggles, so I kind of help people with that. So yeah, if anybody wants to connect, find me at Grow Your Private Practice on Instagram or on LinkedIn. I'd love to say hi. Come and let me know, you know, come and say hi. It'd be great.
Brilliant. I'll include a link to your LinkedIn, to your podcast, to your website, and to your Instagram, all down below in the description. So go and check them out. Go and say hi to Jane. And thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really nice coming and talking to you about this.
I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a like, subscribe for more content like this, and we'll see you on the next one.